final contest will be between Jeremy Hunt and Boris Johnson. Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, is with me now. Gary, some people are talking about some shenanigans.
Skullduggery and the rest of it. Was Boris Johnson lending support in order to eliminate people all the way through this contest that he didn't want around the place? Did he actually do that at the last minute?
Partly to keep his old enemy Gove out.
Well, that was the psychodrama at this stage, that the Boris Johnson camp was deeply alarmed about the prospect of that. And they have avoided that. They have got, in a sense, their dream end point, because they're up against a Remainer with the Conservative activists. So what do you reckon are the chances of Boris Johnson being able to beat him off? They have got what they wanted. They got it all the way through, and there are strong suspicions that even in this very final round, the fifth round of voting, the numbers just don't quite tally up. You can't help thinking that there might have been just a little bit of help towards Jeremy Hunt to make sure he got just over the line, and they avoided that contest that they really didn't want. Michael Gove has been spiky with Boris Johnson, even in this campaign right up to the last minute. They did not want to have that contest, didn't want a lever across the way from them. The position now then is that you have ballot papers going out, probably landing on doorsteps 6th to 8th of July. That's just over 2 weeks away. For Jeremy Hunt to realistically turn this thing round, given that most of the people in postal ballots tend to fill in their ballot pretty quickly, return it, that doesn't look that likely. Is this a resounding victory in the Commons, though, for Boris Johnson? Well, he only got just over 50% in the fifth ballot. If you go back to 3 years ago, Theresa May got over 50% in the first ballot. There are an awful lot of people who've come to the Boris Johnson camp terrified about what actually lies the other side of a Boris Johnson victory. And of course, half the party who just couldn't, even though most of these MPs are heat-seeking missiles for power and know exactly where their interests lie, they couldn't bring themselves to back this man who, after, as I say, the final day of voting amongst MPs, now looks a racing certainty to be our next Prime Minister. A remembrance service in Westminster Abbey for the Cabinet Secretary, Lord Hayward. Prime Ministers lined up, while across the road in Parliament, Boris Johnson was getting closer to joining this elite club. Boris Johnson, with well over half of MPs' support, remains the favourite.
Boris Johnson has got over 50% of the membership of the political party, which everybody said he couldn't get. That's a real fillip as he goes to the country, because it tells all of the members this is the man who the MPs really want. Now you have to decide why not if you don't want to do it.
The man who succeeded Boris Johnson as Foreign Secretary came a distant but critical second in the final ballot of MPs. Jeremy Hunt will get the chance to debate Boris Johnson in hustings around the country and beyond the ballot papers that go out to 160,000 party members next month.
Yes, we can do better than Boris Johnson as the next Prime Minister of our country. We can choose someone who the European Union are actually going to talk to and get that better Brexit deal.
Talking tough, knowing that his rival Michael Gove was the man everyone knew would rough up Boris Johnson more, the man the Johnson campaign team wanted out of the contest. These two fell out after the referendum, when Michael Gove withdrew support for Boris Johnson's last leadership bid. At his campaign launch last week, Michael Gove seemed only too happy to revive painful memories.
Mr. Johnson, whatever you do, don't pull out. I know you have before, and I know you may not believe in your heart that you can do it, but the Conservative Party membership deserve a choice. So let's have a proper race.
I thought that was really profoundly unwise, and I thought the tone in which he did that was nasty, frankly.
The fourth ballot of MPs announced at lunchtime saw Sajid Javid eliminated. His supporters were now under pressure to choose what kind of runoff they wanted Boris Johnson to have.
Oh, my message to them is, look, do you want a psychodrama, the Game of Thrones, the Boris v Michael Gove show again, which will lead to Boris Johnson being the next Prime Minister, or do you want somebody who will give him the run of his life in the final two?
Why does Boris Johnson want Jeremy Hunt in the final two if he's giving him the run of his life? He thinks he's just going to sort of chaperone him around the country.
Boris Johnson doesn't get to decide who's his opponent in the final.
There are those who fear what a Gove versus Boris contest looks like. The years of pent-up revenge and animosity that we're told it lies between them. It doesn't have to be like that, of course. It really doesn't have to be like that. On the other side...
Are you sure it wouldn't be?
I'm not sure it wouldn't be, but that's a choice that they've got to make about how they conduct themselves. And on the other side, there will be people who say, well, Hunt's very competent, he's a good manager, but in terms of the leadership, is he gritty enough? I think he's got an opportunity to show that he's gritty enough.
It sounds to me like you're leaning towards Jeremy Hunt. If I had to call it right now.
No. I'm not going to tell you now, and probably won't tell you later either.
Sajid Javid posed with his campaign team as they voted earlier. There had been speculation Boris Johnson's supporters had lent votes to other campaigns to get unwanted candidates eliminated. Might lend them to the Home Secretary to knock Michael Gove out earlier. We may never know if they lent some to Jeremy Hunt in the final round.
There's talk of one team using proxies designed for their candidate being used for another to boost them. This happens in all leadership contests.
There are people, I think, who do want to see certain things happen and who have probably freelanced a bit on some of those issues. But the point is that the campaign has certainly not. We know as much as anybody else
that you think might be going on.
Well, I think some people might have taken it upon themselves to try and
boost
steer the outcome.
Yeah,
I think that's probably right.
Certain people.
I think that may well have happened.
Another glimpse of the more brittle contest. Boris Johnson has now been spared. He won many MPs over with the promise Britain would leave the EU on October the 31st, come what may. But the Sun newspaper reported that as the BBC hustings ended on Tuesday, just after this moment, the microphones picked up Boris Johnson saying to his rivals, "You see, chaps, we don't disagree on that much." Michael Gove responded, "Dates, Boris, dates." To which Boris Johnson replied, "Hardly. Pah."
I think it will be a good, clean fight, which is what our party members want. There'll be a clear choice. Someone who was an instinctive Brexiteer, someone who originally voted Remain.
We therefore declare that Jeremy Hunt and Boris Johnson are going forward to a vote of the qualifying membership of the Conservative and Unionist Party. Thank you very much.
Fate or scheming has engineered the contest Team Johnson wanted. Now up against one opponent. The Remainer they're convinced the membership won't vote for, maybe just a few weeks from power.
Well, now we're joined by Nusrat Ghani, the MP for Wealdon in East Sussex, and a Jeremy Hunt supporter. Tough job on your hands.
We've got a tough job, but we had a tough job previously and we nailed it, and we're here, we're in the final. Every time that the MPs had to vote, apart from one time, they constantly voted for Jeremy Hunt to be their candidate to face down Boris Johnson, and that's what he will be doing over the next month.
What led you to support him at all in the first place? Your fear of Boris Johnson or your love of Jeremy Hunt?
I've never been afraid of anybody, but I wanted to get Brexit done. I know that Jeremy, as Foreign Secretary, has got really good relationships in Brussels. He's trusted in Brussels. There's a very small window for us to try and negotiate a deal, and he'll be best placed to do that. He's also absolutely adamant to keep no deal on the table as well. We can't have someone, starting from the ground. He will hit the ground running. He will get us the best deal that he possibly can.
Let's be candid, on Brexit, he's a bit of a Theresa May in the sense that he did vote Remain and he's a leaver.
Look, lots of people in the country voted Remain, but we are now delivering Brexit. That's what the party is determined to do, and he voted for Brexit at every opportunity here in Westminster.
But there's no way he'd be a no-dealer.
He has said that if he cannot secure a deal, he would have to trigger no deal. It is not the preferred option, but that's what we will have to do. We need to deliver Brexit, and he's got those relationships in Brussels. He's trusted in Brussels. He has a background in negotiating. He didn't spend all of his time here in Parliament. He was a businessman, so like many people up and down the country, he had a passion, took the risks, did the negotiations, and was able to, set up a business.
Is he obsessed with October the 31st?
He has said that he's going to focus on that date, but if a deal is to be done, and it just takes a couple more hours, he'll have to see what that means. But he's focused on delivering Brexit, and the fact that my colleagues in this place consistently voted for him in every round and then delivered him today as to be the person to take on Boris.
There's not an entirely flattering picture of the cross-section of the members, the Conservative members who are going to have to vote in this thing. I mean, over 55, predominantly white, how much traction are you going to get with them?
Well, I was a Conservative member before I was a Conservative MP, and I don't hit that portfolio.
Well, come on.
But look, we mustn't make assumptions. Every constituency is very different. The first seat that I ran was in Birmingham, so it was definitely not white and not 55-year-old men.
But
so
listen,
it's very diverse.
In this campaign so far, there has not been a thirst for Jeremy Hunt. There has not been people crying out across the country, bring us Jeremy.
This wasn't about the country, this was about here in Westminster and my parliamentary colleagues.
Sure.
And at every point, apart from one, they voted for Jeremy Hunt to be the person to take on Boris Johnson.
So you think we're now going to see a real change of gear, that he's going to go out there on the front foot?
Well, he has to. It starts immediately. There are 4 weeks of campaigning, hustings up and down the country, dozens of them. I believe there are even more debates that might be televised that will be happening as well. There's every vote to play for, and we've only just begun.
What do you say to people who say, hang on a minute, these predominantly white, over 55-year-olds, only about 120,000 of them will vote, and they are going to replace our Prime Minister?
Well, we've got a large membership, but you're absolutely right, the members will be voting, and the Prime Minister has to do
what about the rest of us?
Not only for the party, but for the country as well.
Isn't this a matter for the whole country? Should there not be an election?
We ran on a mandate at the election to deliver Brexit, and that is exactly what Jeremy's going to do.
Once Brexit is done, is he the sort of man who will want to get his position as Prime Minister vindicated with an election?
You will have to speak to Jeremy. He's made it very clear he's going to focus on delivering Brexit and ensuring they can reach out to even more communities up and down our country. A dynamic plan for entrepreneurs, supporting young people with illiteracy, looking at mental health in schools as well. Because of his background, having worked as Health Secretary, he's got a broad understanding of what we can deliver when government.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's really sweet of you, because I know you've missed a train on our behalf. Thanks very much. I spoke a few minutes ago to Dominic Raab, former leadership candidate who was knocked out in the second round 2 days ago and then endorsed Boris Johnson. I started by asking him if the Boris camp lent votes to the Jeremy Hunt camp.
Oh, I don't think so. MPs tend to go and make their mind up. But there's been at every stage, at every round, a build-up of support for Boris. He's got over half the total number of Conservative MPs backing him. That's very important. You remember, he'll have avoided, if he wins, the position Jeremy Corbyn was in. He's got double the number of votes compared to his nearest rival. But the membership have got a great choice. Jeremy Hunt's a great candidate. And I think Boris feels in a strong position now with that mandate from MPs. And it's a very substantial one to go forward and not just make the pitch to the membership about Brexit, about the optimistic vision for the future, but also that he's the man that's got MPs behind him.
But you speak well of Hunt. He has the capacity to beat Boris?
Look, it's an open contest. I wouldn't want to prejudge it. That would be presumptuous. And I'm worked very closely with Jeremy. He's a Surrey neighbour, so I know his strengths.
Are you convinced, absolutely convinced, that Boris Johnson will take this country out of Europe by the 31st of October?
Yes.
With or without a deal?
Yes.
Absolutely, because he wavered slightly.
I don't think he did. I thought it was slightly overinterpreted. Actually, what he was asked about was whether it was possible, and he said it was feasible either on a WTO or in terms of the time to get negotiation. But his commitment to it has been very clear. I've talked to him about it since, and I don't have any doubts.
And Mr. Hammond hasn't put any doubts in you? I mean, after all, you've served with him. Do you not respect his view when he says how dangerous this is?
Philip Hammond?
Yes.
Oh, I always respect. Philip's my parliamentary neighbour. I've got great respect for him. I don't quite agree with him on the scale of the risk. There is some risk to a no-deal Brexit. There's risks all round, but they're manageable risks, and what we need is some finality. The bigger risk is to allow this paralysis to continue.
Well, now, if Parliament doesn't accept a no-deal exit, or even the deal which that Boris brings up, are you prepared to try and drive through a proroguing of Parliament?
Well, no one's really talked about proroguing.
Well, you have.
Well, in my campaign, I was asked a question, and I said we shouldn't take things off the table. But this is
you were an enthusiast. No. You said if the vote isn't coming through, then we can suspend Parliament.
John, simply wrong. Go and check. I've never said that. Not on Channel 4,
Well, where did
anywhere.
prorogue come from then?
I was asked about ruling things out, and I said you shouldn't rule things out, saying it's the wrong message. But this isn't my campaign anymore, and Boris has been very clear. It's unnecessary.
But you're part of the
undesirable.
campaign. You're a most important prop, and part of that prop is proroguing.
No, I don't think so.
You've abandoned it.
No, look, it's clearly legally possible, but I think Boris has been very clear it's not desirable and it's not necessary. That's the key thing. You'll have read the Institute for Government report, which shows that you don't need to prorogue in order to get no deal through. And of course, we want to keep it on the table to give ourselves the best shot of a deal. It's not because I certainly don't embrace it in its own right. It's not what we want.
As a Democrat, do you feel comfortable that our next Prime Minister will have been decided upon by about 130, 140, maybe more if everybody turns out, Tory members, most of them over 55, practically all of them white? Is that really the way to run a democracy? Is that the right way to arrive at a Prime Minister?
Well, I remember when Gordon Brown took over, I don't remember hearing the same complaints about that. The reality is we've got a mandate for a Conservative government, and obviously we've got a hung parliament, and most importantly on Brexit, we've got a mandate to deliver through our manifesto. And I think that's the truth is, you can talk about going back to the country. Until we kept our promises from the last time around, I don't think it's the right thing to go back to the country.
And finally, given the real doubts over what happens to the Northern Ireland border, are you satisfied that you will forge another coalition with the DUP? It's critical to your survival.
Oh, I think I can't speak for the DUP, but look, I've been down there as Brexit Secretary from Crossmaglen to Newry. I've looked at the border situation very carefully. I've been to the Port of Larne to see where the checks can and should be done.
That doesn't answer the question, though. Are you confident,
I'm absolutely confident
as we stand here, that
Brexit.
the DUP will support you? Because if they don't, you're going to be defeated.
Yes, I'm confident, and I'm also confident we'll avoid any hard border or any infrastructure at the border.
And you have to depend on your own MPs actually supporting you. And I've just been listening to Nicholas Soames, for example, who was with Rory. He was pretty damning.
Well, the way democratic leadership contests should work is we have the arguments and then we rally behind whoever wins. Otherwise, of course, you're right. If people want to sort of go off on a frolic of their own, we risk a Jeremy Corbyn government, and that is the single biggest risk we've got right now.
Dominic Raab, thank you very much for talking to us.